I just want to thank you all. We are continuing on another year as a broker, and I put together a pretty good benefit package, I feel, for you. There are going to be some changes on the medical and the dental that you need to pay attention to as we go through it. In your packet, we'll start on the right-hand side, which would be with Maylene, I'm going to introduce here in a second. And just so you know, the process we go through is we go out to the marketplace, we look at different carriers, we look at things we've done in the past, and then we take our findings and we review this throughout the year with a benefit committee. So we took our findings to a smaller group, mostly administration folks, to show what we had, came up with a decision, and then took it to your general benefit committee and kind of your joint governance on what you do with the health plans. And the recommendations were to make some changes because we were able to hold a line on costs. They're not drastic changes, but it was to try, and the goal was to try and make sure that the staff at OTC didn't see much of an impact on your pocketbook for the premium and things, and that's what we've tried to accomplish. So we've got a lot of things to cover. I'll turn over to Maylene, who you've met before and seen before from Cox Health Plans.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Wow, totally full house. Okay, so what we're going to do primarily this morning is spend more of the time on the benefits, since we do have some tweaks that I want to go over with you. So we'll go through that first, and then the second section is going to be very similar to what I've gone over with you in previous years, because it's just kind of a refresher on some key things that we want to make sure that you're aware of and understand. So with that, we'll start with the benefits and the base plan option. One thing I want to note as we go through this slide and the next slide, the items in green are the things that are changing with respect to your in-network benefits. So when you're using network providers and facilities, there will be some correlative differences in your out-of-network benefits as well, but I'm not focusing on those specifically because we want to make sure that you are going in-network for your care so you can get the most out of your benefits. If you have questions specific to the out-of-network pieces, I'll be at the back table and we can discuss that offline, but I want to keep this to the in-network benefits just for the sake of time. So on the base plan, you have the $1,000 calendar year deductible for an individual, and then that shifts to $2,000 as the maximum for a family. So that is actually not changing. What's changing is your maximum out of pocket. So this amount includes your deductible, any cost sharing that you have with the health plan, which I'll talk about in a minute, and any of your co-pays. So that is shifting to $4,000 starting in January. So you may or may not actually end up even noticing this difference, depending on the extent to which you need to use the plan next year if you take this option. But again, remember that $1,000 is included in that $4,000 total. Let's say you have an inpatient scenario where you've got to pay your $1,000 deductible first. That's the point in which the health plan is going to start cost sharing with you in the remaining expenses. So once that deductible is met, that cost share split is an 80-20 split. You'd pay 20% until your maximum out of pocket were to reach that $4,000. So you pay 20% up to an additional $3,000. Okay, so worst case scenario within the year. So you could have a $50,000, $100,000 bill. You're still only going to be paying $4,000 as your maximum. Now, that is one scenario in which you could get to that maximum. A lot of people aren't ever going to get there. But another way you can get there is you could have some expenses towards your deductible, some expenses towards the 20%, but you could have co-pays that are applying that would get you to that threshold. It just depends. Everybody's scenario is unique. So there's various different ways that could happen. So as we go down the page here, you'll notice that your office visits, inpatient, outpatient care, all of those types of things are going to continue to apply to the plan deductible and that 20%. The emergency room benefit is the other change for 2020. That copay is shifting to $300 per visit. Just remember that $300 is covering whatever is done in the ER. So if they're doing lab work, scans, casting, whatever the case might be, all of those charges in the ER are going to be covered under that $300 copay. So when you think about the average ER cost maybe being anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000 on the low level, that's a pretty good, robust copay. Now, the provision still exists that if you have to go out of network, your in-network copay will still apply on the emergency room. There is that emergency provision under your plan that protects you in those instances. We just ask if you're able to get to an in-network ER. It does help control the costs on the back end if you do that. But first and foremost, get that care as quickly as you need it. Lastly, the prescription benefits are going to remain the same. So you've got that $100 prescription drug deductible that will apply to your prescriptions. It resets every January like everything else. You'll pay that before the copays will start to apply. So depending on the types of medications that you might be taking, those copays are going to be $10, $30, $50, or $100 once that $100 deductible is met. But all of those items that I've just gone over, they all go into that $4,000 bucket as you pay them in, okay? Now, as Gordon mentioned, if you look at this payroll deduction amounts at the bottom of the screen, those are the same amounts that you are currently paying this year if you were on this plan. So OTC is holding that for you. I do want to make a note for the outline box here to the left of the screen. There was a last minute change in the wellness incentive piece. So we had all of this, all of the packet content printed prior to that change occurring. So we did get to make the update on the slide, but just take note on the handout in your packet. It's still referencing this year's wellness incentive amount. It is changing, as you can see, to up to $150 as long as you are participating in the 2 wellness opportunities in the year. So if you elect to not participate in that or only participate in one, depending on whatever your scenario is, your premiums could potentially increase by up to $150 if you weren't participating in the wellness program. If you do, then you would receive that incentive that we've got listed there. So again, if you're looking at your handout, you might jot a quick note that is changing to what you have up here on the screen. Okay, so for those of you who are either considering the high deductible health plan or are currently enrolled on the health plan and intend to continue with that, next year we do have changes to that plan as well. First and foremost, I want to point out that OTC, if you'll recall, does contribute to a health savings account on your behalf if you participate in this plan. Currently, it is $96 a month, I believe, and it is going up to $100 a month starting in 2020. So that's a very generous contribution from your employer. You do have the ability to contribute to that account yourself. We'll kind of go over those details once we're done going over the benefits. But that is going to be a change for next year if you take this plan. The other changes are related to the deductible and the maximum out of pocket. So the deductible is going to shift to $1,500 for an individual, up to $3,000 for a family. And then your maximum out of pocket is going to shift to $5,000 for an individual or a potential of 10,000 for family. Now, remember those totals do include the deductibles that are listed above them, okay? Now, this is gonna work similarly to the PPO as far as how the health plan pays and how you pay. For your services under this plan, you pay towards your deductible first. Once you've met that deductible, the health plan starts to cost share with you an 80-20 split on this plan as well. So on this plan, you'd meet the $1,500 deductible, then you would pay 20% until all of your 20% were to get that total, that grand total up to the $5,000 mark. Similar to the other one, you may not ever get to that point, but that is your worst case scenario if you have some more serious circumstances with your health care next year. What is different about the high deductible health plan is that there are no co-pays. So you're getting the benefit of the insurance contracts with the providers when you use this plan. You're never gonna pay 100% of billed charges from the physician, the facility, on your prescriptions. You're always gonna get that contracted or discounted rate by having the health insurance. So you're gonna have that benefit. You're paying towards deductible and your 20% on everything, including the prescriptions, but only up to that maximum. Now the benefit of this plan, aside from those discounts, again, is that HSA. So that if you take this plan, you open the HSA account or you have one now, the idea is that you're saving money in that account to help you cover your medical expenses incurred under the plan. So you can use that money when you have a bill that goes towards your deductible, or you have a bill that is towards that 20%, and you're not having to try to come up with where to find that money out of your personal checking account, right? So you're getting some of that funded by your employer at $100 a month, and then, of course, you can, if you wish, elect to contribute to the account as well. Now, one thing to know, and I would encourage you to look at your benefit summary in your packet if you have questions about this, because I've tried to make it a little bit more clear on there. Just remember, if you take this plan and you do have a spouse and or children covered with you on the plan, this is what we call a non-embedded deductible. So that family deductible has to be met by one or more people before you would start to receive that co-insurance or cost-sharing benefit. Now, in the interest of time, I'm not going to get into huge detail on this. If you have questions about that or it does not make sense to you, I'm more than happy to go walk through it with you at our table afterwards. But that's something just to keep in mind so that you understand how that works. Now, on this plan as well, there is the premium incentive for participating in the wellness program. So if you participate in the 2 activities, then you would receive the $150 incentive. If you elect not to participate, then your premiums could increase by up to that $150. Okay, so kind of shifting gears to the HSA side of that plan. So you have your health plan, right? It's a high deductible health plan. You can pair it with a health savings account or HSA, which is what OTC is contributing to for you. To be eligible for using an HSA account, so all of this is regulated by the IRS, you have to be enrolled in a qualified high deductible health plan to open one and use it. You can't be eligible for Medicare, and you can't be eligible to be claimed on someone else's tax return. So those are their kind of stipulations on that. as long as you are enrolled on this type of plan, you can continue to contribute to your health savings account. It doesn't mean that if you switched plans, moved employers, etc., that you couldn't continue to use that money over time, because you absolutely can. It is your money. You just couldn't continue to contribute to that savings account. So contributing to that savings account is tied directly to being enrolled on this type of plan. The limits for next year, what you could contribute to the account, are listed up here. $35.50 for an individual, or up to $7,100 for a family. Now, by no means are you required to contribute anything at all, let alone hitting those maximums there. But that's your threshold if you are someone who is planning to make those additional contributions on top of what OTC is putting in there for you. Now, as far as what you can spend the money on, it has to be what they call qualified health expenses. The IRS website has a listing of what those would be. In general, though, if you're looking at this plan specifically, you're going to be able to use it to pay for your deductible and anything that you're going to get charged that 20% for. Those are going to be considered qualified expenses. You can use that money for non-qualified expenses because, again, it is yours, but the IRS can penalize you 20% for tapping into that outside of those particular expenses. So that's something to keep in mind. I mean, people might do that if you kind of get in a bind, whatever the case might be, but just know if you do, you're going to lose 20% of it. Okay, so we talked about long-term. Yes, that is the point of this whole particular scenario, having those health savings accounts available to you. They are intended to be used long-term. A lot of people get these set up and use them into retirement before they become Medicare age. They are building this up as kind of what I would call a medical nest egg, if you will, because obviously as we get older, we have more expenses on the medical side. We have more prescriptions we have to take, and those costs can rack up. So this is a good way to plan for those types of things. So again, the money is yours, the account is in your name. You can use that money until it's gone for these qualified expenses. Now, if your spouse is enrolled on a separate high deductible health plan, it is recommended under IRS to have a separate HSA account for both, because the IRS views both contributions as one tax unit when they're looking at the maximum contributions. So just keep that in mind. One common question we get is, because on the PPO plan, and Megan will get up here and talk about this in a little bit, there is a flex plan that, or a flex account that is available to you to set aside pre-tax money to help you cover your deductible and your expenses on the PPO option. Can I use both the flex and the HSA? And the answer to that is no. You would need to use the flex if you're enrolled on the PPO. If you're on the high deductible health plan, you would use the HSA. Okay, these slides will be made available to you, but you've got a couple of links here that I've posted for the basically the guidelines and regulations around HSAs and high deductible health plans for the IRS. So just make sure if you're getting into this for the first time, or you've got very specific questions about this, that you consult your tax preparer and your banking institution where you have your account housed. Quick refreshers. I've mentioned this earlier, deductibles, maximum out of pocket, all of that resets every January. So keep that in mind. Out of network benefits, You have those on both of these plans. We just don't spend a ton of time talking about it because if you are purposely going out of network, you are doing so knowing that you're gonna have significantly higher expenses because there are no contracts with those providers. So we just wanna make sure that you know you have that available to you, but it's gonna be to your benefit if you stay in network when you can. Generic versus brand, OTC as a whole does a really good job. You all are great stewards of the policy by selecting the generic a majority of the time when it's available, so I won't soapbox you on that part. I will say, however, if you take the high deductible health plan, this is a great reason to shop pharmacies. You can use the Envision RX app if you load that on your phone, and it will help you determine which pharmacies are gonna charge the least amount for your prescriptions. So you're paying less on your policy than you would normally have been paying. Because the same prescription can have a different charge depending on what pharmacy you're filling it at. So it does pay to shop. Okay. Preventive care, last few slides. This is really remaining the same as it's been since 2010 when the Affordable Care Act started. You have that listing of preventive services that are covered under that provision that are available to you at no cost. So that continues to be in place. Just remember, if you have other preventive services done that are not part of that listing, then you may have some out-of-pocket expenses. But otherwise, those are gonna be covered at 100% per the mandate as long as they're coded properly. Provider network, so in general, that's not changing. Our footprint is still these 26 counties that you see on the map here on the screen. We're continuing to partner with First Health for any care that you need anywhere else in the United States outside of those 26 counties. We just strongly advise, and this would hold true regardless of who you had for your insurance company, always check before you get your care and make sure that the provider and the facility that you're gonna be using is part of the respective network, okay? So do yourself that favor and do that double checking. Virtual visits, last piece, just a quick reminder that this is still available through Cox Health. It's the basically Skyping or video chatting with a Cox Health provider. This is meant for basic care needs. So it's flu season, bronchitis, things like that, pink eye, whatever the case might be. There are a ton of things that they can diagnose for you via this method. It's a $45 charge that's gonna apply to your deductible on either plan that you select. But that is a lesser charge than you would pay if you were going to the physician's office or urgent care or whatever the case might be. And it's super convenient. It is gonna be much more efficient for you in your personal life, less expensive. You can do this from the comfort of your home, your office, as long as you have internet access and a camera, which most smartphones and computers have those built in now. You can take advantage of this during these business hours that are listed.
Nice. Follow them out there now. On the left, we're going to go to the left-hand side of your packet now, I think. Yeah, that'd be right. For the rest of the agenda, to go over these product lines real briefly. We do have a young lady here to help us on some of the changes that are going to occur. Basically, you have term insurance, and none of this is changing. Carrier's still staying Cigna. You have term insurance, it's 1 times your earnings. It's provided for you by the college that you have. It also includes accidental death insurance. In addition, you have long-term disability coverage that is provided for you by the college. And then you have the option, if you're a new employee or this is the first time you're just now eligible for coverage, to purchase optional voluntary coverage. You have that once a year, and then if you're currently on the plan, you can also look at doing additional amounts at any time, but you may have to provide evidence of insurability to do it. Alicia is going to talk to you, and I'll kind of skip ahead to she's going to talk to you about this item. The vision insurance that you have is voluntary. You can sign up for that at this point in time. But you have vision insurance also that's voluntary that you can sign up for. You pay for all the costs of that, and if you have that already, that's not changing. Coverage is the same, price is the same also. We do have on the dental insurance some changes, though, she's going to go over with you on.
Yeah, so vision is staying the same. A couple changes to dental that I'll get to in a second, but I do want to mention in the preventative maximum, I do want you guys to take advantage of staying the same there, that if you do get a preventative cleaning, if you get preventative x-rays, anything like that from that class 1, it will build up your benefit maximum per year for 4 years straight. So it is a really good benefit that you do have. So for the first year, your benefit maximum is $1,000. So let's say you go get a cleaning, it'll bump it up to $1,250, $1,500 to a maximum of $1,750. So I do want you guys to take advantage of that. And then you guys still do have no deductible, cost 100% or 100% coverage there. For class 1, class 2, and then a little bit of a change for class 3. It is now at 50%. One little change at the bottom is just now you guys have some orthodontic coverage for children, so great there. So you guys have kids, you can get some little coverage there. And then, like we said, vision is not changing. Now, I do want to let you guys know that if you do have any questions, you can always come back and see me. But if you do go home and you think of a question, we do have a pre-enrollment line open for you that you can call for any vision or dental questions. And that number is 1-800-564-7642. And I'll repeat that one more time. It's 800-564-7642.
Every year we bring somebody that can talk to you folks about if you're close to retirement, you're going to be on the OTC plan for a period, but then you turn 65 and you're going to retire sometime through this year. So Charlene back in the back is kind of our Medicare expert. These young people up here looking at each other say, I'm going to go sleep. I don't need to hear that. But also the Affordable Care Act has an exchange, Obamacare, where some people covered under the plan have gone there to buy coverage for their children or for their spouse over the years instead of doing it through the OTC plan. And Charlene's also a person back at our table that can take your number and get back to you on some of that stuff. That's what she's here for, just to answer any specific questions and all that.
I don't know how many of you participate currently in a flexible spending account plan, but I want to give you a little bit of information that might help you decide if it's something that can benefit you. How many of you would like to get more money out of your paycheck? So with the flexible spending account, the IRS allows you to take money out of your check before the taxes are calculated. So if you have a 25% tax bracket and you want to set aside $100, you get the full $100 instead of losing $25 that would pay for taxes. So that's how you're getting more out of your paycheck. You don't pay taxes when you take it out. You don't pay taxes when you lose it. There's only thing to be aware of, and that is whatever you set aside, that's for eligible expenses. If you do not incur the expense, file the claims like you should, there's money left in the account, you do forfeit it. So you want to be cautious on the amount that you set aside. There are two plans that you are eligible to put money aside. One is an unreimbursed medical expense, and that's for healthcare related items, medical, dental, vision, prescription, over-the-counter prescriptions as well, like medicated items. And then another bucket is for daycare expenses, and that's the dependent care assistance plan. So I'll go through both of those with you in more detail. The unreimbursed medical FSA allows you to set aside up to $2,750. It's a $50 increase over the 2019 allowed amount. You decide how much you want to set aside to cover the expenses that have to be between January 1st and December 31st of your 2020 year. And if you incur the expense in that time period for an eligible person in your family, and that's spouse, you, and children up to age 26, then you're eligible to get reimbursement from the money you use set aside pre-tax. The money is available to you on January 1st, but you will have equal portions taken out of your paycheck all across the year. The dependent care plan, you can set aside up to $5,000. If you and your spouse both have access to do flex plans, the dependent care portion of $5,000 is a limit by filing your taxes. If you share custody of a child, you can divide that however you want, but the $5,000 is the maximum. Your unreimbursed medical of the $2,750, you and your spouse can both do up to your employer's allowed amount. So that is not capped except by what the employer allows you to set aside. The money available to you for the dependent care for the preschool, after-school expense. Certain preschools may list it as tuition, but it is your child care. And it's so that you, your spouse, can either work, be searching for work, or go to school. The money is available to you as you put it in, so you want to turn in your claim for that month's worth of expenses. When you get paid the end of the month, then you get the reimbursement for that month's totals. You can access the funds in your account several ways. If you use the money out of your checking account to pay for these expenses, you'll file a manual claim to MedPay. You can file that by fax. You can take a picture of it, send it by email. You can upload it through the mobile app or through the consumer portal. But we also give you a debit card. And that debit card you could use at healthcare-related merchants, and that's assigned by their actual card machine that they have your card swiped through, and it has to be healthcare related. So there is that limitation. It is a 3-year card, so if you have been participating in this plan already, you've got that WEX card, and we just reload it every January 1st with your new election amount. The debit card for you is linked to both the unreimbursed medical and the dependent care plans, but they have, if you use it for daycare, they do have to be an eligible daycare for the card to work. So you may have to pay for that out of your account and then get the reimbursement. We do follow the IRS regulations on verifying what you use your debit card for. So we've listed a few things here at the bottom, but if we need a receipt from you, we'll either send you a letter or send you an email if we have your email account on file, email address on file. Also, if you file a manual claim and we have your email address, we'll send you a notification that we received your claim and we've processed it. And if you set up direct deposit for that reimbursement, we'll send you a notification that that direct deposit is on its way to you. You can put your email address in through the consumer portal or mobile app. You can also set up the direct deposit through either of those. And also, if you want to give access to your account to an adult child or spouse, you can order additional cards with their name on it. They have to be over 18, and you can do that through the consumer portal. As I mentioned, the claims have to be incurred during the calendar year. You will have all the way until March 31st to file the claim for reimbursement. If you do terminate employment, you have 90 days to file the claims. All of the dates have to be incurred prior to your termination date. You may be eligible for COBRA under your flex plan, and if that's the case, we will send you a notification upon receipt of your termination and let you know how much is in the account and if you are eligible for COBRA or not. Once you make the decision for your participation in the flex plan, there are a few situations where you will be eligible to make a change, but otherwise you're committing to that for the entire year. The dependent care assistance plan does have some additional qualifying events. If you have a change in the provider or they change the amount, maybe because of the age bracket of a child, that you can come into payroll and get that updated. In your packet are a copy of these slides, so you have our contact information, the consumer portal, if you have a smartphone, how you search for the mobile app, and also a list of some of the things that you can do through the consumer portal. Our phone number, fax number, and a couple of email addresses are listed there at the bottom. So if you have any questions while you're mulling over about participating, you can give us a call and we can help you determine if you have some expenses and if this is a benefit for you.
Everyone knows Aflac. We see the commercials on TV. The purpose of Aflac is to provide us cash in hand to help us with medical out-of-pocket costs associated with any type of injury, illness, or accident. So real quick, we have a couple policies. Short-term disability ensures our paycheck if we cannot work due to an accident, illness, or scheduled surgery. So that provides basically essentially becomes our paycheck when we're not working. We have an accident policy. Anytime an accident occurs to us outside of work, we seek medical attention. It provides cash back to us. So slip, fall, sprain, cut, broken bone, poison ivy, dog bite, anything like that provides cash back in hand. Critical care provides a lump sum cash benefit, diagnosis of a heart attack, stroke, kidney failure, major things in life that could happen to us. We have a hospital plan, provides a hospital admission benefit, hospital confinement benefit. And then we have the cancer insurance, two plan offerings there. So I will be in the back of the room. We have wellness benefits attached to that as well. So each year you'll have an opportunity to earn wellness benefits, getting a flu shot, something like that. And then I'll be back on December the 6th in HR to perform enrollments if anyone has interest in that. So thank you and have a good day.
Good morning, everybody. Just so we're all on the same page, I realize nobody enjoys talking about life insurance. I really don't get too excited about it either. But I will tell you a little bit about, it's something everybody needs. Not everybody, but most people do need it. This is a guaranteed issue whole life insurance policy. You guys have term insurance offered through your health benefits, which are tremendous. Those premiums, they're really low, really cheap while you're young. As you get older, every term insurance product goes up in price. It's designed to price you out of it before you die. Okay, to give an example on your current coverage, which is tremendous coverage, by the time, for a 44-year-old, by the time they turn 50, your premiums will go up by 266%, okay? This coverage is not meant to replace that coverage. This is meant to be a supplement. So with our whole life coverage, what it's there for is a product that you can keep for the rest of your life if you desire to do so. The premiums will never go up. It is fully portable whether you work at OTC or you do not. Once you've purchased it, it is yours to keep. The people that we've found in working with OTC over the last few years, there's really two groups of people that this coverage works best for. Those people that are interested in buying just a small permanent policy that will pay for their final expenses, or those people that have a medical impairment or a family member has one. We work with a lot of people that they have heart conditions. They have a history of cancer, poor driving record, DWI, diabetes, children with autism or birth defects. All those things in most cases will render you unable to buy life insurance through traditional underwriting. This has no medical questions. It's got an accidental death benefit rider built into it, so it does double the death benefit if you die accidentally before age 65. In addition to that, it's designed to be very cost effective. For an average 40-year-old to buy a minimum policy, you're talking about $7 per pay period. A lot of people that do policies on their children, let's say ones that are 15 years old, getting ready to turn 16, you're talking about in the neighborhood of $4 per pay period. So if it's something you'd like to talk about, I'll be more than happy to give you an idea of what you're looking at and try to really find out if it's a good fit for you or not. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. In closing, the portal will open today at noon, will remain open until November 27th at 11:59 p.m. Don't forget about your wellness initiative. All services must be completed by December 31st. So if you're doing your services while the college is closed, just make sure you get those documents to me that first week of January, okay?